Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today for my review of the 1964 film Masque of the Red Death, as seen on the Vincent Price collection, which I highly recommend. All the films on here are great. Masque of the Red Death was directed by Roger Corman and stars Vincent Price, Hazel, Jane Asher, and Patrick Magee. And Masque of the Red Death is my favorite Roger Corman Vincent Price film, and also one of my favorite horror films of all time. Probably somewhere in the top 10. So there's a lot of reasons why I like this film as much as I do, and I will try and go through some of that now. Part of it might just be the fact that I have read several of Edgar Allan Poe's stories, and Masque of the Red Death was always the story that creeped me out the most for some reason, and I think the film does a great job of capturing the same things that the story did. So the first thing I want to say is talk about the great cast and the great acting in this film. This is my favorite Vincent Price performance. I'm not going to necessarily say it's his best. You could argue quite a few different performances there, but it is my favorite performance out of all his films that I've seen. And Hazel, Jane Asher, and Patrick Magee also do great work in support in this film. This is also one of the biggest casts of any Corman Price film, as there are a lot of small parts in this film, and I think everyone does a great job. I also think it's one of the best written of these films, and the reason I say that is because not only do I think it's a good adaptation, I think the characters are very interesting. For example, Jane Asher's character, Francesca, is a great counter to Vincent Price's Prospero, and some of the philosophy behind these characters is interesting as well, and they just contrast and play off each other very well. I also think the pacing is really great. This is like a 90-minute film, but there's really no wasted time in this one, in my opinion. I really think almost every scene is memorable in some way, and the scenes that are a little more deliberate build up to great scenes that follow them, which in my opinion is a great way to make a horror film. So as far as atmosphere goes, this film has a very surreal quality to it. There's a lot of bizarre imagery and a lot of strange sequences. The main set, the main castle is amazing, as in most of these Corman Price films. The film takes place mostly just in one or two locations, and this is my favorite of the main sets. They really did a great job. There's a lot of rooms that are only like one color, like there's a room that's all yellow. This could really not work, but it really does in my opinion. The color red is also very pronounced to go along with the title of the film. I like how the red always stands out. There's one scene in this film where it's just all black and red, and it looks really, really cool. I just really love what they did with the lighting and the cinematography, which was done by Nicholas Roeg, who would go on to have a pretty good career as a director himself. He does a great job with the cinematography on this film. The music's also really great. One of my favorite scores from all these films. And the party scenes are just amazing. There's party scenes at the castle. And I won't spoil it, but anyone who knows the story Masque of the Red Death, and they are very incredible. There's kind of an artistic theatrical quality to parts of this film, including the party scenes. And there's even some pretty impressive choreography. This film just feels a little bit more elaborate and a little bit grander in scale than most of the other Corman Price films. Some may say it's over the top, but it works perfectly for me, and I love every minute of it. There's also some surprising gore in this film, more so than other Corman Price films, and that works well too. It's not like over the top gore, but what is used is very memorable, and there's a couple pretty decent kills in this film, surprisingly as well. The film is just a perfect balance for me between plot and kills and scenery and imagery and all those kind of things. This is also arguably the darkest of the Price Corman films. You could also argue Pit and the Pendulum, and I wouldn't say you're wrong. But for me, this might be the darkest of the stories. I also love how this film just builds and builds. The last 15 minutes or so is awesome, and that's probably what makes it one of my favorite horror films, even though the whole movie is good. There's even a pretty interesting subplot, like with the woman that Francesca loves and her father, and how they fit into the film. For me, this is one of those horror films where everything just comes together perfectly. And the very ending of this film is awesome. It gives me some chills every time I watch it. So this has become one of those horror films I watch a lot. I try and watch it every year around Halloween. And I highly recommend it if you like 1960s horror films, if you're a fan of Vincent Price or Roger Corman, or if you just like to watch great horror films in general. I highly recommend Masque of the Red Death. And definitely if you can find this collection, the Vincent Price collection, there are a lot of other excellent films on it as well. And really all of them are good, and I recommend this collection as well. So that will do it for my review of Masque of the Red Death, and I'll see you all soon. Thank you.